Welcome back, everybody, to the VBC Racing Broadcast Studio at Throttle Raceway in Kissimmee, Florida. We're just minutes away from the start of A-Main number 1, the first of 3 mains that will decide the next World Championship for the ISTC class. And Marshall, we saw in the last round, 3 cars went into it with a shot at the A-Main. And Naoto Matsukura actually ended up winning the tiebreaker over teammate Ronald Volker, with Bruno Coelho starting in the 3rd spot. And those 3 drivers broke away from the rest of the pack in the A-Main practice session. And the first time that we saw the cars start from a grid.
Yep, that's right. If you were sticking around with us in the break here, we had the mobile camera down there at the side of the track watching the proceedings. And yeah, it turned into a 3-car horse race with Naoto taking the win in the practice main. It was Volker and Coelho right on his heels for the first half of the race. Coelho with a bobble, and he fell back in the order. Volker continued to chase, but then he had issues as well. And so the speed is there. The mains are going to be fantastic. The racing is going to be awesome. It's just a question of who can make the least number of mistakes and claim the world title.
It's going to be interesting to see how the drivers attack and try to make passes on each other when the track is as hot and as slick as it is. It's already difficult for them to put together a clean 5-minute run, driving at the limit when there's no one behind them. Mm-hmm. All of the drivers mentioned that there's not a whole lot of room to pass on the track. But it seems that, I mean, if you're driving by yourself and there's already a tendency for some of the drivers to overcook some of the corners, go a little bit wide, or they get on the gas a little too hard coming out of the turn, the car slides a little bit and it leaves the door wide open for a pass attempt.
It does. It's a very complicated layout with several different acceleration and braking zones, and that's typically where you set up to make passes. There may be turn combinations as well where these guys are thinking in their head, okay, if I set this guy up on this corner and this corner, they can get him on the 3rd one. And it's going to be fascinating to watch. These guys were nose to tail, and we expect that again here when A1 rolls out in just a few minutes here on LiveRC.com, and we will be getting ready to go to the track here momentarily as the drivers are in tech, getting set to go. One big question is whether the emergent star Bruno Coelho can emerge at the front from 3rd on the grid. He's X-Ray's best shot at a world title and trying to take down the 2 Yokomos out in front of Matsukura and Volker. It's going to be fascinating to see, and yeah, we're excited to see what happens. This is what we're here for.
I think tire fade is going to play a big issue in the main events. We know from all week talking to the drivers, if they drive hard for the entire 5-minute race, they cook the tires, the car starts sliding around like it's on an ice rink, and that's absolutely going to leave the door wide open for someone behind them. Yes. We have drivers, for example, Tamiya teammates Mark Reinert and Victor Wilk start 4th and 5th. They're in an interesting position that while they won't get to control the pace up front, they can choose to sit back. Maybe in the middle part of the race, if Volker or Matsukura pull a couple seconds out on the rest of the pack because they are charging hard and their cars start to fade at the end of the race, perhaps Reinert and Wilk will have enough tires left to make a charge at the end and make a pass.
Yeah, that could very well happen. And also, a lot of times, we hear Scotty say this all the time, 3rd and 4th are sometimes the best place to start in the mains because the leaders can tend to get together. And especially after that practice main, the top 3 were nose to tail for the first half of that race. So Mark Reinhardt starting 4th actually has a better shot than you might think. Hasn't got the raw speed of the top 3, but just one collision is all it takes because he's only fractions of a second off, and maybe he could pick up a 4th world title. This is not out of the question.
And defending world champion Hillis Grosskamp starts all the way back in the 10th position. He's got a lot of work to do to go back to back. No one's done it yet. We know that Mark Reinert is the only driver who's won this class more than one time. Hillis doing a great job getting it in the finals with the TRF 419, its first big race. In fact, he still has a prototype chassis on the car that they were using for testing. But Grosskamp and Hara, the 2 former world champions, starting outside the top 5. Reinert, of course, 4th. And it's going to be interesting to see if those drivers can move up toward the front and make a couple of passes. We could potentially see one of them on the podium. I think the battle out front is going to be, definitely between Matsukura, Volker, and Coelho.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's unfortunate but highly unlikely that we're going to see Sabue, Hagberg, Mean V, or Grosskamp get to the front. But you never know. It only takes one crash in just the right spot, in some tight corner early on in the main to cause absolute chaos and then completely change the complexion of the race. We're doing 3 mains and hoping that all 3 are what it takes to determine a world champion. Drivers are getting on the stand right now as we speak, and we're getting set to go with A main number 1. And if you know your friends are meaning to watch the race and haven't signed on yet, text them, call them, send them a private message, whatever it takes to get them on, because we are about to go racing and it is going to be fantastic. We're at the 2014 IFMAR ISTC World Championships. We're in the VBC Racing Broadcast Center, and you are watching LiveRC.com. And we move to our live shots of the driver stand here at the Full Throttle Raceway facility in Kissimmee, Florida. Naoto Matsukura, Ronald Folker, Bruno Coelho, Mark Reinhardt, Victor Wilk, Atsushi Hara, Akio Subue, Alexander Hagberg, Mean V, and Elis Grosskamp will contest the following 3 mains to see who the world champion's going to be.
Looks like they're going through driver inductions there. We just saw Mean V reach out and salute the crowd. You know, anything can really happen. I believe Grosskamp started 4th in 2012 and was able to move up and take the championship. Here's Alexander Hagberg. He'll start 8th, one of the X-Ray drivers in the main.
Yep. It's a 3-manufacturer affair here with Yokomo, Tamiya, and X-Ray. Early on in qualifying and certainly in practice, it looked like it was going to be a 2-car show between Yokomo and Tamiya. Christopher Kropp in the